Welcome to the Marketing Doctor channel. Today, I'm going to help you further into your academic journey, especially your marketing academic journey. But the tips we're going to cover in this video are good for dissertation students across board, undergraduate, masters, or PhD, especially if you're in the UK, coming from a master's supervisor herself, that will help you master your literature review and how to go about it in simple, easy 5 steps. 1. Define the scope of your literature review. Identify your research question, break it down into themes, into variables, into constructs. Also break it down further into research objectives or any relevant themes related to the theories you're covering or the context you're looking at. So once you have those keywords, we can jump into step 2. Now, step 2 is about finding the relevant literature. Now, at this point, we are only going to look into books and journal articles for your literature review. Any other papers, blogs, etc., company reports, they can go either in your introduction or other sections in your sometimes even in your research methods within your dissertation. Do ask your supervisor about that. But for your literature review, you focus on books, journal articles. Now, remember the journal articles, the higher their ranking is, the more credible the sources for your literature are, higher the likelihood of you getting a better grade. So look for articles for 4-star, 4, 3-star, 3 journals. Try not to go lower. Also, look for books which are not outdated. So if you're in 2024, as we are when this video is being recorded, quoting a source from 1980 might not be so relevant. So look for current research. Now, another thing when you're searching for these, once you've highlighted the keywords, like we said in our defining the scope, in our step 1, which was defining the scope, you could put these different keywords in combinations on a source like Google Scholar, also databases like JSTOR, Science Direct, Wiley, or even the relevant journal databases for your particular research interest. Let's say if you're doing consumer behavior, you could be looking into Journal of Consumer Research, Journal of Consumer Psychology, and you could put in your combinations of keywords with Boolean operators, which are basically and or. Step 3. Now select your sources. So you would have possibly come around with a multiple number of papers, maybe 50 papers, 60 papers. It's not possible for you to read all of them. It's also not possible for you to include all of them because you're not writing a book on a particular theory. You are writing your dissertation on your topic of interest in combination of different variables. So what do you do at this point? Make sure you read the abstracts of the paper to select if this paper is relevant to you. Now, this paper can be relevant in multiple ways. Sometimes it's good for definitions. Sometimes it's good for debates. Sometimes it can be done because of the chronological order in which the theory was explained by multiple academics. Sometimes it highlights a gap in the research that you need to talk about. So look at the abstract, look at the conclusion in the paper, see if it is relevant. Try to create a table of key findings so that you can sift down to your relevant papers. Try starting with at least 5 to 10 papers that are most relevant to your research aim or your main research question, and then build from there. Another key thing to keep in mind is also look at the bibliography of these papers. So go down to the bibliography, and sometimes you might find relevant papers that you could be using, introducing theories, introducing maybe definitions or other research methods which might be relevant to the way you're researching your particular study design. Also, go in to see the citations. When you go back into Google Scholar, see the citations and the number of times the paper was cited. And look at the citations. Obviously, higher the number of citations, more popular the paper is, more relevant it could also be for your stream or your theory. but also look at who cited it, and maybe in the citations you find another relevant paper for your literature review. So look at the reference list of those papers or bibliographies, and also look at the citations and the papers who have cited that particular paper of interest. If the count of citations is high, there is a likelihood it is a relevant paper to your topic, and it's also a highly credible paper, so do think about including it. But do go back to my tip of thinking of the journal. If the journal is a higher rated journal, then there's a higher credibility, and then also look at the citation. So now you've got your relevant sources. Let's go to the next step. You need to form connections within these papers. So either it's identifying your research gaps, have debates within the papers, so sometimes academics can have contradicting ideas, or even have connections within these papers that you have selected for your literature review. Now at this section, some key things to look into is formulating trends and patterns within your literature review, identifying research gaps, possibly research gap that shows the topic you're doing is novel and has not been touched upon, any themes that keep coming up. So let's say there's lots of research in smoking habits and people and fair appeals. Any themes that keep coming up, any debates or contradictions that the academics have about a particular theory or concept, and then finally influential studies and key studies for whether they were for the theory development, so the core theory development, or the definitions. So always remember that your literature review leads into research gaps, and it eventually leads into hypothesis development chapters, right? So identifying the gap that you are filling in, and then how does this gap actually support it or is counterintuitive to the existing literature. So at this point, we go to the next step. Think of the structure of your literature review. There's 4 types of literature reviews: chronological, methodological, thematic, and theoretical literature review. So see which one fits you. I'm going to link some videos down below in the description so you can have a further delve into what these different types of literature reviews are.